I hope you enjoy my stories. Instead of just clicking thumbs down, please comment and share how we can do better. If you do like our video, then please like and subscribe.
Being the president of our local Homeowners Association is a job I never imagined myself in. It's a small HOA, a newish section in an older neighborhood with just over 20 properties nestled together in 3 cul-de-sacs. From the outside, you'd think it'd offer some sense of community or shared responsibility. But here's the kicker. Our HOA has been more of a ghost than an actual governing body.
We've never collected funds, maintained anything, or truly functioned. It exists in name alone, and that's about it. Now, here I am thinking seriously about pushing for its dissolution.
It's not a decision that's come to me lightly, but the more I mull over it, the more it seems like the only logical step forward.
This idea was sparked by endless conversations with a fellow board member who's all gung-ho about reviving the HOA, making it functional, and starting to collect dues for maintenance and all that.
Every time we talk, I'm stuck on the fundamental question of why.
Why try to breathe life into something that's been dormant for so long?
Especially when it seems we've been getting along just fine without it. We don't have communal amenities, no pool, no clubhouse, nada.
The city's agreed to take over maintenance of the sidewalks and streets, which only leaves the detention pond and a shared driveway as the quasi-communal areas. The detention pond runs alongside 6 to 7 properties with the shared driveway connecting 2 to 3 of these properties.
That's it. That's all we've got that could even hint at needing an HOA to manage. My proposal, or rather my collection of thoughts on how to proceed, involved the pond and driveway significantly. For the pond, my initial idea is to offer a quit claim deed to those properties it adjoins for a symbolic $1.
They can then split it along their property lines and take over the maintenance that, I should add, has been blatantly ignored by the HOA. Before this transfer, I'm thinking of proposing one last maintenance action, a simple bush hogging to clear overgrowth and make it presentable. But here's the thing, what if they don't want it? What if the owners of these properties refuse to take on this responsibility?
Well, I've considered that too.
As a last resort, I'm thinking of taking on the pond myself. Quit claiming it to me for that same symbolic buck, and I'll manage the maintenance and pay the taxes, which are pretty nominal, only about $60 a year. I'd also have to consider the cost of mowing it down once a month after we've cleared the initial brush overgrowth, and of course whatever insurance might run me. But that's assuming 2/3 of the HOA members are on board with dissolving it in the first place.
This is where I'm at, sort of talking it out loud, trying to weigh every option and potential hurdle. Tax-wise, we're clear. The pond's taxes are paid up.
My biggest concern is getting everyone on the same page, or at least the majority.
It's this whole idea of trying to understand if resurrecting the HOA is worth the effort, or if it's just holding on to a structure for the sake of having it.
Considering we've practically functioned without it, the practical part of me can't help but lean towards dissolution. And then there's the matter of the joint driveway. It's less complicated but still needs addressing. Perhaps a simple agreement among the properties it serves could suffice, ensuring it's maintained without needing an HOA to oversee such a minor detail. My head's been spinning with all these thoughts, considerations, and potential pushback. Disbanding an HOA isn't a walk in the park. There are legal steps, votes to be had, and consensus to reach. Every time I delve into the specifics, it becomes clearer to me that this might not just be about the practicality of having or not having an HOA.
It's about what's best for our little enclave. And if we've been doing fine without actively functioning as an HOA, why introduce complications?
I guess what I'm trying to sort out is how to move forward in a way that benefits everyone.
It's not just about getting rid of what seems like an unnecessary bureaucratic layer.
It's about setting up our neighborhood for future success, clear of unnecessary complexities, and focused on what truly matters, maintaining the peaceful, simple living environment we've all come to enjoy. I realize the decision won't be solely mine to make. It will need discussion, debates, and ultimately, a majority vote.
But laying the groundwork, presenting the facts, and outlining the potential pathways forward is my responsibility.
And it's one I don't take lightly.
Because at the end of the day, whatever we decide will shape the future of our neighborhood. Whether that involves reviving the HOA and giving it a purpose, or dissolving it and moving forward independently, the goal is to ensure the well-being and satisfaction of all residents involved. And that's a goal I'm committed to, no matter the personal time and effort it requires. In 2021, I made the decision to buy a condo in Orange County, California. This wasn't just any condo though, it was part of a complex with 41 units, all boasting 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms apiece.
The place looked like it had seen better days really run down. But the deal sweetener was that the buildings were on the schedule to be remodeled.
That bit of news had me signing on the dotted line, hopeful for what was to come. Not long after moving in, the reality of the situation began to unravel.
We, the condo owners, were hit with a special assessment fee.
It was a tough pill to swallow, but the promise of updated buildings made it seem worthwhile. Except after the fees were collected, only half of the buildings saw any sort of update. And then, out of the blue, we're slapped with the news that we collectively owe $150,000 to the construction company. Trying to wrap my head around this was difficult.
How did we go from paying our special assessments to being in this much debt? Curiosity got the better of me, and I demanded answers.
Proof of this alleged debt, invoices showing before and after costs. Anything to justify the astronomical jump from a $30,000 fix to a $120,000 one. But every inquiry I made, whether by email or in person, was met with vague responses.
The best they could offer were references to checks written in various amounts, but nothing concrete to show how they arrived at the outstanding debt. The numbers just didn't add up.
My building, despite the previous owner paying the special assessment, hadn't seen a lick of paint or a single workman since I moved in. It felt like we were being taken for a ride.
Was there any legal standing in this?
I found myself wondering.
Every attempt to seek clarification or accountability was deflected.
Emails were ignored, and whenever I brought up my concerns at board meetings, the meetings would mysteriously get canceled or cut short.
The whole situation reeked of embezzlement and negligence. And the worst part? It seemed like this wasn't an isolated incident. Other condos managed by our Homeowners Association were experiencing similar issues.
The more I dug, the murkier it got.
1/3 of the board members, for example, somehow managed to get a $4,000 payout for damages inside their unit, claiming it was covered by the HOA's insurance. Not coincidentally, their unit was among the first to be renovated.
Then there were the other 2 board members who only spoke Spanish. Not a problem in itself, but it became one when the board actively discouraged me from communicating with them.
It was suspicious, especially considering one of them was married to the property handyman. This handyman seemed to be on the HOA's payroll for every odd job you could think of, from mowing the lawn to handling the trash, jobs that were never put out for bids, but just handed to him, presumably at rates decided by the board. The whole setup screamed conflict of interest. Each discovery painted a clearer picture. The board members were benefiting from their positions, while we, the homeowners, were paying the price. But what to do?
Hiring a lawyer seemed like the next logical step, but the fear of being plunged further into debt held me back.
After all, any legal fees would likely come out of the HOA funds, which meant our pockets. It felt like being trapped in a no-win situation.
As the days passed, frustration turned into a simmering anger. How many of us were suffering because of the board's actions?
How long had this been going on? Every unanswered email and canceled meeting only fueled my determination to find a resolution. But the path was fraught with uncertainty. Was it worth the risk of escalating things legally, potentially costing us even more? Or should we try to find another way to hold the board accountable? At the heart of it all was a sense of betrayal.
We'd bought into this community, invested our hard-earned money, on the promise of a safe and well-maintained home.
Instead, we were met with deceit and mismanagement.
The challenge now is to decide how best to confront this, to ensure not just justice for ourselves, but to safeguard against it happening to anyone else in the future.
The battle against our shady HOA was just beginning, and while the road ahead seemed daunting, the need for transparency and accountability drove us forward. We couldn't let them win, not without a fight.
So here I am, living what I thought was the dream in sunny Florida, in a quiet little community called Plantation Point.
It's the kind of place where everyone knows each other. The kids can play outside until the streetlights come on, and the biggest event of the week is the HOA meeting. Sounds ideal, right?
Well, it was until the board decided to shake things up a bit.
Out of the blue, the HOA board just up and made new rules about how we, the homeowners, can conduct ourselves, especially regarding documenting and sharing our own experiences within the community. And here's the kicker, they did this without amending the bylaws or the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Now I'm no lawyer, but even I can tell something's fishy here. For starters, they put some pretty tight restrictions on recording HOA meetings. Now we must submit a request to video these meetings, despite the Florida Statute 720 clearly saying it's allowable to record.
If that wasn't enough, they want the recording to only cover the meeting itself, nothing before it starts or after it ends. No capturing those candid moments or side discussions that sometimes tell you more about what's going on than the official agenda. And get this. Sharing any part of these recordings on social media or with people outside the association is a complete no-no.
If I wanted to post a snippet of a meeting on Facebook to get my friends' opinions on the new landscaping plan, I'd technically be breaking the rules. They've even specified that if you do record, the camera has to be placed at the back of the room as far away from the board members as possible. I suppose they want to ensure the camera captures their best side. And oh, you have to hand over a copy of your recording within 24 hours.
Because apparently they want to control who gets to see what and when.
But wait, there's more. They've also decided to put a leash on how we share images of the community. Want to post a sweet pic of your kid chasing butterflies by the lake or your spouse landing that monster fish?
You'd better think twice unless you've got written approval from the board.
That's right. No sharing the beauty and fun of our community without a stamp of approval. And for those of us who like to vent or rave about community issues on social media, or any websites that aren't kissing the HOA board's feet, we've got to include a disclaimer stating that our views aren't endorsed or reviewed by the association. I mean, I get the intent, but it feels a bit like they're trying to muzzle us, doesn't it?
So here I am, scratching my head, wondering when my happy little community turned into a place where every share, post, or comment has to be policed. It's not just about controlling the narrative. It feels like an invasion of our personal freedoms to communicate and share our lives as we see fit. I've been talking to my neighbors, and we're all in the same boat, confused, frustrated, and a little angry.
None of us signed up for this when we moved here. We chose Plantation Point for the freedom and peace. It offered not to live under the watchful eye of an overzealous HOA board. Some folks are talking about challenging these new rules.
There's chatter about meetings in living rooms, brewing pots of coffee as we pour over copies of the COVA LENTF 1S720 and our original CC and Rs, trying to figure out if the board even has the legal standing to enforce these changes.
It's strange to think that our quiet little slice of paradise is now the battleground for what feels like a much bigger fight. Fight for our rights as homeowners, for our freedoms to share and communicate freely, and for the very soul of Plantation Point.
We've got a long road ahead.
There are letters to be written, possibly lawyers to talk to, and definitely more HOA meetings to attend, ironically, under the new cloud of recording restrictions. Through all this, I found a stronger sense of community with my neighbors. We might have been brought together by our shared discontent, but I'm seeing a silver lining in how we're coming together to stand up for what we believe is right. So yeah, life in Plantation Point has gotten a bit more complicated, but maybe, just maybe, it's what we needed to remind us of the values we all share, and the kind of community we want to leave for our kids.
One where their biggest worry is whether they catch that fish or chase down the ice cream truck, not navigating the murky waters of HOA regulations.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.